Hello and welcome to another A Better Way of Life, the podcast. It's Friday. It's early in the morning. You may or may not have had your breakfast yet. If you have, hope it was delightful. Marianne, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah.
That was very subdued.
Okay.
Come on, let's get some energy going.
Sorry, I did. I'm good. I've been to the gym. Maybe that's why. Maybe it's because I did my Pilates and I'm relaxed. I've got the heater on as well, and it's making me feel really tired. So I switched off now because I don't actually. I think it's a bit of a sensory thing. So
it does do that.
Yeah.
We should all stay cold, and then it would all be good. In a minute, we're going to introduce our special guest for today. Tell me now, this is somebody you know. So, how did you meet Sylvia? First of all, give her a little bit of an introduction.
Well, I think I'm not too sure because I run the Care Connector network with Ian Craig. I think it may have been through that, but it's definitely LinkedIn, and I'd seen some of the work that she does, and I don't actually know what she doesn't do because she seems like a bit of a superwoman, really. She seems to do an awful lot. She kind of feels like she puts me to shame, and actually she's hoping to come on some of my training at some point, so I hoping I don't feel too overwhelmed. But that's two ladies that can teach each other something, I'm sure. So yeah, she's got lots of things that she does, so I don't know what she's going to talk about, but there's lots of things she does.
That's brilliant. I'm going to say as well, for anyone that actually cares, I'm hopefully, after we've finished recording this, hopefully going to go to a guitar shop for a little bit. That will be a little bit different because...
When you say for a little bit, just to go to one? Or?
Oh, well, no, because my son, it's his birthday, or he's had his birthday, and so he's had some money, and he wants to buy a guitar.
Acoustic or
no, electric. He has an acoustic. Yeah. So we're going to go technical term, but we're going to go and widdly a guitar shop hopefully and try some out. It's very important to try out your instrument before you buy it.
Well,
I feel.
Well, yeah.
Don't you think?
There's quite a few instruments in my house, and there's some very loud instruments in my conservatory that
Well, you've got drums there, haven't you?
Yeah, do you know, it's funny, someone said to me today, because it was somebody I know that sent me a video, they were playing the guitar, and I electric, and I said, my youngest is now learning, my eldest taught himself, but drums were so he started off with acoustic, then went to electric, and then went back to acoustic. Now he plays rock music. So generally, we've now put them in the conservatory so that it's quieter for everybody. I quite like hearing it though, because I just think it's wonderful hearing your son, who you thought was going to be this shy and never wanted to be seen by anybody person, that now absolutely loves playing the drums and plays the guitar because all the ladies will see him.
Oh, yeah.
And he's going to see Metallica. Is it Metallica? Is he going to see Metallica? Is it Metallica next year in Poland? So he managing to go to prom, and then he goes the following day. Do you want to go, Mum? No, it's all right, thanks.
No, doesn't suit you.
I go to see the Call the Midwife set with my youngest.
Are you
going to that instead? Yeah, me and Oliver love watching Call the Midwife, so we're going to the set.
Where's that?
I think London somewhere. I think.
Is it? Oh, right.
Yeah.
Because it's based around Poplar, isn't it? Which
Poplar, yeah.
I mean, if
Stephen Liddell knows about this, my friend Stephen.
If any of you have been to Poplar recently, you'll know that it's on the DLR line, and it's one of my favourite bits of the DLR line, because it's the bit where the DLR goes kind of down like that. You know, it almost feels like a roller coaster. You'll know what I mean if you've been. Yeah, you'll know what I mean if you've been to London and you've done the DLR. It's all fun and games. Anyway, we're going to talk to Sylvia. Let's bring Sylvia in. Well, budge up, make room. Hello, Sylvia.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Oh, yeah. That was much better actually. If you
I can lift it up.
Oh, I like that. Now, Sylvia, do introduce yourself. Who are you? What is it you do?
Well, so it's a good question. I'm a mom to start with, and then I work. I run a small community interest company called Reach for a Star. So we do a bit of everything here. So we do coaching providers in social care, especially when they are thinking about starting domiciliary care. We do community projects, so anything focusing on health and well-being, mental health, physical health, etc. And then what else am I doing? I'm starting a care company as well. Hopefully very soon. Hopefully very soon we'll become registered with CQC. And what else? I don't know. I volunteer a lot.
Wow.
I think that
he's got ADHD like me.
Well, so there you go. Yeah,
that's how we connected.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
So many things. You're such a busy woman. First of all, I must comment, if I may,
I know.
on your whole. Well, no, it wasn't. I wasn't actually going to comment on the post-it note. Well, I'll comment on the. Yeah, look, I will comment on the post-it notes in a minute. All right, but I was just getting the whole office. That's lovely. You've got some lovely biophilia going on there with the plantage, etc. And it's got a kind of. It's got a lovely, I mean, that green in the background, it's got a kind of nice kind of natural feel to it. Very, very kind of calming. Have you deliberately gone for kind of calming colours?
Yeah, so especially with plants, because I've discovered, especially when I was recovering from my own mental health struggles, I've noticed how beneficial it is for me to have plants around. So I do enjoy walking in nature, especially when there's any water features like a canal, lakes and things like that. So I love plants. So yeah, there's quite a lot. And we've got a funny competition with my sister actually, who's got more plants in the house. So she's beating me constantly, but yeah, we do love plants.
Oh, no, I love that. Where Marianne, for you, where's the best place walking for clearing your head, etc.? For me, it's the beach. I love the beach. I love just looking at the sea. The sea to me just always kind of reminds me of how small you are, because it's huge, isn't it? And kind of how insignificant you are as well, really, in many ways, because it's just so powerful. What about you?
I do love, for me, I love running with the dog. For me, I find that my time when I say run with the dog, I think she pulls me, actually. That's how I get round. I mean, I like going for walks, but I really do love my auntie and uncle live just up from Margate, and they live literally just on the seafront. And I absolutely love it. And the rougher the sea, so stand up on the cliff, it kind of consumes me. It almost sort of takes my breath away for that thing that we are so small, and it just seems so vast. Just so that it really makes me think more so than when it's calm, actually.
Yeah, no, I get that.
That means something, maybe. I'm sure maybe that means something. I don't know.
Yeah, I just think, you know, I think it's that sense that I think in particular, because we're so sort of surrounded by technology and everything else as well, it's kind of the sense that actually, compared with nature, technology is quite minuscule, really. You know, the power that's in nature is just so much bigger than all of that. And I think
I do love plants.
Yeah, I think that's quite calming for us.
I feel quite envious of people because I just kill them. I don't mean to.
I don't think you can see, but there is few dead plants up there on the shelf. I didn't kill them on purpose. I think I just watered them too much. Killed them with kindness.
I think houseplants are quite hard. Yeah, I think houseplants are quite difficult, actually. I'd love to get some hints and tips, actually, on houseplants and, you know, what are the best ones? You know, it's difficult when the house is cold one minute and then warm another minute. And
Fake ones. It's the only thing I'll fake.
Yeah, it's not quite the same though, is it?
I know, but I kill them. So what am I going to do?
Just gives off a different energy, like a fake energy. Let's move on to post-it notes quickly before we go on to something else. Post-it notes are a great invention. Yeah. Why the post-it notes? What are the post-it notes for? You know, how do you use them?
I mean, so to be honest, I don't have an office, so I work from home at the moment. So this kind of is like my project management method, where I just like stick everything around. I am very visual, so I like reminders, and I think I've got loads, like you can't see, but there's like loads of different notes stuck on my walls all around me. So yeah, it just reminders, like even like one-liners, just to visually tell me what I'm supposed to be doing, or like to-do lists and things like that. So, and especially because they are quite colorful, so you always catch attention in one way or the other.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by that whole area because I mean I have a background in assistive technology and learning, etc. So I'm really fascinated by the ways that people use to sort of work with information and learn things, or you know, develop ideas and whatever. The one thing that always gets to me is that there seems to be one of the issues seems to be that we either have a paper-based or a physical-based system, or we have an electronic system, and there's pros and cons to both, right? So with a physical based system, actually sticking stuff on, you know, things, actually you physically do it, and it kind of, you know, stimulates stimulates a response within the brain, and you kind of feel like you've done that, or when you write something that's really useful, etc. You know, and putting up post-it notes, it kind of there's a tactileness that's within the whole response thing there, which really helps. But then when we try and use that information again, or share that information with other people or whatever, it's problematic because it's kind of stuck on our wall and it's all in paper or whatever. But if we try and replicate that by, like, you know, you have like a system on your computer where you have like digital sticky notes or whatever, that doesn't feel the same. That doesn't resonate with us in the same way. But you kind of understand why maybe someone wants us to do that, because then you could download that information and share that information. To me, that's where technology needs to be stepping in. I honestly believe it's more a case of allowing people to do things in the physical realm, but then digitizing that which has been physical to enable that information to be passed on and manipulated and whatever for other people to get involved in that information.
Yeah, it's not the same.
We will get, see, my Samsung I've got, I'm advertising them, but I don't know other ones that do. And my Remarkable tablet, when I get myself trained up on it, thank you, Access to Work, it's got the pen in it so I can write, which arguably, but then it kind of goes wrong, and then I end up losing patience with it. So this, I have to say, I'll share this with people because it's been quite life-changing for quite a lot of people, because before I was diagnosed, I don't know about people. Do I say Sylwia or Sylvia?
Sylvia.
Yeah. I used to have so many notepads. I love notepads. I'd have a notepad for this and that and that. And then I didn't know where everything was. And then one day I thought, actually, I'm just going to have one book. So I have one book that I'd keep with me all the time. So I have one in my handbag and one here. And literally anything that I thought, I would literally just write anything down. Sometimes it's like one bit. So I knew then that I could just go to this, because I constantly had bits of paper strewn around the place. And that was a game changer, absolute game changer for me. And I know a lot of people find they have that problem with I've got bits of paper all over, post-it notes with codes on and stuff. And then I have to remind myself to go back to my book, because it stops me doing this thing where I'm losing things all the time, and helps me be organised. God help me be organised, because I'm not. But I am in my own way. But I think right though, it's the hybrid sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So Sylvia, do you how do you then share that information with? Do you have to share that information with other people? How do you share that information with other people when you then have to share it? Do you take a photograph of it?
Yeah. I mean, so my aim is to go obviously paperless at some point, but then, like you said, like it's not the same, especially when taking notes, or like I've got Remarkable as well. It's not the same. The idea behind Remarkable is to make it feel like you are writing on paper, and it was great until it stopped working. So now I can't even access my notes. So technology can let you down sometimes, whereas post-it notes don't unless you lose them. I am very I enjoy the act of writing, I suppose, and searching where information is. Like I've got loads of different books, notepads, like they are addressed at different things. So one topic is for one notebook is for, I don't know, my group. So one notepad is for meetings and things like that. So there is a system. I do use things like Google Drive, where I share documents and notes with people, or I use Trello, which isn't probably my favorite thing, but it's quite useful when you need to share to-do lists with other people. I do try to use things like the routine, because I'm very obsessed about having to-do lists and like daily planners and daily routines. I love that, but again, I prefer printed copy where it's stuck on the wall in the kitchen, where I can just cross things out rather than having reminders on my phone. I do try, like even last night I was putting some reminders just to drink water, for example, in my phone, and it works for a day or two, but then I forget. So I don't know what needs to happen in technology world to make it easy for us, I suppose. I don't know yet.
It's interesting. My kids were showing me the new Apple Vision Pro last night. I don't know whether you've seen that. So Apple now have a wearable tech where you literally
that VR or not?
Yeah, it's like VR, but you basically have like your phone, if you like, with all of the apps
I see.
on the VR, so you can literally do everything from here and whatever. And I'm kind of like, no. Because you can't really go around walking around with like a VR set on all of the time. I suppose it enables you to maybe do more walking and work, although you'd have to have a clear space to do it in, otherwise you'd be tripping over the dog all of the time and you'd probably smash your very expensive VR headset thing. But yeah, I don't know where it's going to go. What I would say is it's really worth, to anyone that's listening, it's really worth, I think, trying to keep up with where AI is going on these things, because AI is moving so quickly. And we've all seen the adverts recently on the TV, or if you've been to the cinema, you see them every 5 minutes, where every phone is now, the big kind of move forwards with every phone is what AI it's got in it. And it's showing you like pictures of people taking photos and then taking people out, or putting people in, or changing people's faces so people are looking like that. You can make them look like they're smiling and all of that sort of thing. But I think some of the useful stuff that's coming in that will be stuff like where you can take a photo of your what you've got there in terms of your post-it notes, and then that will turn it into text or whatever, or maybe turn it into digital version of that, so that you can then pass that on. I think
there can be sort of a hybrid. I mean, I've got here loads of post-it notes from when I do my training, and I get people to give feedback. And I know that I don't ever tell people when I teach people how to teach. I don't ever tell them how to do things, because is he going to teach me tell me how to do things? I go, no, I'm going to sort of show you some various ways, and you do what works for you. And I know that a lot of people use different apps to give feedback and that kind of stuff electronically. And kind of still like doing this. I go around and give them 3 coloured post-it notes and ask them to write their feedback, and they stick it on the wall, and then I'll read it out. So nobody knows is who. It doesn't go wrong because I've got pens and I've got post-it notes. It doesn't go wrong. It doesn't go wrong. And then I photograph them. I can share those kind of things. And I think one of the problems is nowadays, I sound like I'm really old now, is that it doesn't matter what way you do anything. There's always going to be somebody that's not going to take to it. So you can run a session that is, Zoom, Graham, I've just sort of recently been speaking to a company about working with them. And generally speaking, I like doing face-to-face, but I will do Zoom and I will do e-learning and try and improve, the way that it is. But there is this problem, and I think when you're working, whether it's you're managing or whether you're training, you're never going to please all the people all the time. And that just is a perfect example, because, when I do my training, I'll say to people, you can have an electronic copy of the work, but you can have a physical copy of the work, but don't use one at all. Record it with permission from everybody. Shut your eyes if you want to. Whatever you want to do, I don't really mind, because there's almost so much out there, but people make assumptions that all people are going to like electronic stuff, or all ADHD people and neurodiverse people like this, or all do like this, or they don't like that. It's just not true. We're all different.
No, that's very
I
true.
change my mind daily. It's a bit of a hazard, really, isn't it, of how things have changed.
Yeah. Sylvia, do you think you were talking about the mental health space? Do you think in terms of sort of like the way things are today, and that the fact that I was thinking about it even as I was saying it, but the one of the reasons we're trying to find a way of digitalizing stuff is partly because we're trying to miss out part of a process. And I think part of it is just down to speed, because we've got to process stuff very quickly these days so that we keep up with everybody else. But do you think that is part of the reason that we're seeing so much or so many cases of mental health, anxiety and issues, etc., is because everything's just too fast? And actually, and I'll bring both of you in on this as well, is part of that quite detrimental to the whole learning process as well? Because, in a way, if you write that stuff on your post-it notes and stick it up, and then in order to send that information to somebody on a computer, if you don't use technology to cleverly sort of extract the information, it means you've got to write out that information again. And in writing out that information again, you consider that information again. So that's quite useful. And secondly, you're partly learning that information again. So you're checking it, you're learning it, you're recapping it, you're going back through it again. And it's a longer process. And maybe actually the longer process actually is better for us. Maybe it's physically better or mentally better for us as well, because but the problem is we feel the pressure of time in doing something, so therefore we gravitate towards whatever will do it the quickest. Now, a really good example of that is, I love my music, Marianne, but we have gravitated towards listening to our music on whatever device, yeah, and that means that we just can, turn to the thing in the corner of the room, and we can say, I want this, and then it appears out of nowhere, like magic, isn't it? There's nothing in that process that slows us down, right? Years ago, and there's a comeback in vinyl, and I strongly believe one of the reasons that vinyl's making a comeback with the younger generation is because vinyl slows you down. Because when you listen to a record, you have to be purposeful about it, right? Because you literally have to go to the record player, put that thing on, put the needle on, and then you sit and listen to that side. And when you then want to listen to the other side, you go back and you turn it. And so you've got to make time for that. Do you think, I know I sound like I'm waffling, but do you think that some of the problem is that we're just not giving time to stuff?
I mean, so I think there's definitely an element. I was just thinking about like how times have changed over the years. Like I remember, because I don't feel that old, but I do remember the times when there was no internet or there was no mobile phones. And I remember times where, you know, I was writing letters to my boyfriend who lived miles away and waiting for those letters and things like that. So whereas now, I think it's what you said, like there is that instant gratification where you just press a button and something arrives at your door a few hours later, or you press a button and a meal turns up at your door half an hour later and things like that, right? Or whether it's music, YouTube, and all that stuff. So there is that element that I think we don't know how to wait for things. And I think that can create a lot of problems with, I'm sure it can affect our mental health in so many ways. So for example, it's just like a silly example of like when I was on my weight loss journey, right? So how it started was, I remember my son, he was, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years old. And he said he wanted to have a 6-pack. So he got down on the floor, he did 10 sit-ups and lifted his t-shirt, and the 6-pack wasn't there. So he says, I'm not doing it again because it doesn't work. And I said to him, like, son, it's gonna take time. It's not gonna appear on it straight away. You need to make more effort, you know, it's gonna take some time, etc., etc. And then I thought to myself, like, he's too young to understand, right? So I need, as a parent, I need to show him what it means. So that's when I decided to go on a diet. And, you know, in my case, it took me 4 years to lose weight, whereas some people, you know, can lose weight much faster. But then is it sustainable when you lose weight faster? But then anything really, like, so when we think about people who want to buy a new car, or whether they want to buy a new house, or whatever it may be, everything takes time. It's you know, people get depressed because they don't earn enough money, but then at the same time they don't do anything to change it. They just hope that it's just gonna appear from nowhere. They go buy lottery and they don't buy the lottery, then the next day they are upset and things like that. So I'm sure that problem with instant gratification and how we can wait, for sure it can affect our mental health. Whether it's problem to everything, I don't think it's a problem to everything, but then there's definitely something. Yeah.
Is it our choice? Is it? I mean, you know, when I think both of you have said it, that I'm really sorry that there's a drill in the background. You can hear it.
No, I can't hear it. It's fine.
We hurry, but I don't always think it is because that's what we want. Because just earlier on, I was speaking to Graham about something, and I said I didn't think I'd received something, but I actually said back to the person, I added it onto an email, I don't think I've received it. How highly likely it was that you added it, but I didn't know where it was. It was apparently somewhere, but sometimes there's always so much coming out. I feel there's always so much coming up. I'm always in a hurry, but I don't think that's because we make ourselves in a hurry. It's because so much we need to be doing, and so often I miss things because I didn't even know that it was there. Like when I just said earlier, I said it's like Dropbox and this cloud and that one, and then I go, why can't everyone just use the same thing? I end up nodding and going, yeah, I'll find out what they're talking about in a minute. And I find so often though, so many things I don't finish off purely because I didn't have the time, particularly ironically when it was in my computer or my phone, whereas when I've got my diary, I still have a diary, I can see it and I can sort of move things around on there. But I think we all make each other too busy, and I think I tried probably because of how I work, and maybe this is why with my teaching, when people do take to the way I teach, I'm quite open with those struggles now to say, be honest with me if I'm speaking too fast, if you need more time, if afterwards you need me to go through this, because I know what it's like. People go home and then they go, I can't remember what she was talking about. Because that's what happens, because we all, you know, even when people come on courses or companies will say to me, how quickly can we get through it? And I know why they're saying it, but that, as you said, Sylvia, that whole how quickly can we, you can do things as quickly as, but that doesn't mean to say it's gonna stick. So that's like Graham works with me now, and quite often one of the things Graham will do with me is I'll say, could you just go through this with me? Just can I just get this straight? Is this what this meant? Did it mean that? Because there just never seems to be, and I think particularly for neurodiverse people, we sort of say yes to things because we don't want to say we didn't understand it, but there isn't really that time because there's always later because I'm in a hurry to do something else. So I found it really, really helpful. Even in a meeting with someone the other day, I'd been in one meeting, had no idea what one person was talking about. So I caught up with this other person afterwards and said, can I just check in with you? Is this what was being talked about? I feel comfortable doing that, but I wonder if we all actually give other people that chance. I don't know.
No, I think it's what I've noticed. I was talking about it to someone the other day. I had 2 meetings recently, 2 professional meetings that went like in so many ways differently, right? One meeting was with an expert by experience who was autistic, and he was very open about it. So everyone knew that he's got additional needs, right? And during the meeting, he got lost a little bit, but no one was rushing him. Everyone gave him time to just get things sorted, and, you know, we waited. Whereas I attended another meeting, and that was like a very high up, you know, meeting with loads of professionals. And one lady who was participating, she got lost in like using the technology. There was some microphone system that was very complicated. So she got lost in that system. And people were rushing her to the point where someone just jumped in to answer the question on her behalf. And I'm like, you know what? We just respond to people in so many different ways. Like, we are so more understanding for people when we know that they've got additional needs, like, and we know that, you know, we need to give them time. But when someone is, in theory, neurotypical, and well, we don't know because they don't have a label on their forehead. So they may be, but or they're just not admitting that they are. And we are not as patient and understanding with them. So the world is very, very interesting at the moment. And I think we, you know, and I don't encourage people getting diagnosed or having the label or whatever, but I think it makes life so much easier when we do have a label attached that people know about, because then it gives us that understanding and support when we need it. Whereas when we don't, people are just like, oh, you should know this because you don't have additional needs.
But should we be the ones that change? Or should it be that, I think if other people just, comes on to another podcast that we did, Graham, if everybody just became a little bit understanding of people's needs.
I think like,
I've been speaking recently about sort of victims and perpetrators, for want of a better word, but those that aren't understanding and those that need to be understood, that the person that needs to be understood has to find that voice to be understood, ironically, whereas actually, you know, should it necessarily be that way? I mean, I think that's why when you look around at a lot of teachers and a lot of trainers, a lot of teachers and trainers are neurodiverse. And I don't think it's by accident. It's because often we've struggled. So I know for me, when people have to do micro teaches in my session, I approach it very right from square one. I say, right, on day 3, you're going to have to do a micro teach, but I don't really call it. It's not an assessment. I'm just going to sit there and I'm going to write about what you do because I have to. If it all goes wrong, we can just start again. It's no big deal. And people say to me, it puts them on ease so much. Whereas they've had experiences with other people that make it be this grand thing and this important thing and this very, very formal. and it doesn't bring out the best in people. But I'm pretty sure that it's because, and probably Graham, you're the same doing what you do, and Sylvia the same as you. We do what we do well because we get what it's like to feel.
I've been thinking a lot about your training of Train the Trainer or teaching people how to train recently, and I've been thinking that just how necessary it is, but not necessarily in the places where people think it's necessary.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I think people think you need to learn to train because of a training situation, right?
Yeah.
Like you know where you're delivering training as part of a training package within a business or whatever. But there's lots of places where you disseminate information to people where this is really, really helpful.
Yeah.
Where actually people haven't identified at the moment that actually they don't do it very well at all, right? And I think, having seen you do your training, that some of those skill sets, if you think about it in terms of sales process, for example, or you think about it just in terms of a internal meeting process, if people had those skill sets and were thinking about aims and objectives and what people need to get out of this, and the fact that people learn in different ways and whatever, even in those situations, different questions questions actually would be being asked in the first instance, and different outcomes would be happening. So for example, Sylvia, as you said there, because you knew someone was neurodiverse before starting that meeting, everybody made accommodation for them, right? But why don't we go into every meeting, or before every meeting? Why don't we start
doing that initial assessment?
Why don't we do before every meeting? Why don't we go around the room and go, okay?
Do you know that's such a good idea.
To be honest,
Today I'm gonna be we're gonna have a meeting about this, and the format for this meeting is that I'm gonna do it like this today. Now, does that cause a problem for anybody? Right? Is there anybody that's gonna come out of this meeting thinking, oh, I haven't, and also, can you just give me some feedback on previous meetings we've had? Is there, when we've had meetings before, have you always come out actually understanding everything that we've had in this meeting? No? Okay, so can we just go over, like, what I could do differently, so that, but nobody wants to do all of that. We just launch in with another meeting, etc.
They do. It is. That's what happens, and it's funny because quite often, I've written, I've got the accredited one, and I've got one that's a train the trainer that isn't, which allows me to put in some of the stuff that I think is needed. It's the stuff I put in the other stuff that's accredited, but that's the added stuff. But because so often people will do presentation courses and a this course and a that one, and ironically, people will pay for those ones. But I'm like, well, actually, you could go on a 2 or 3 day course, with the 3 day being where you actually have a go at doing whatever it is, and you get all of those things. So as you said, I hadn't really thought about it fully, and maybe it's why when I kind of in my head assume that people know how to do those things, that even when you finish off, it's sort of saying, summing it up. Even the assessment bit, people look at me and they go, but I don't do assessments in my training, official ones, or in my work. And I said, you do, or you should do, because you should be working out, formative assessments as you go along, which is asking those questions, looking. I say to people, I'm always watching what people are doing, what their body language is doing. And then from that, I might go, oh, did everybody, I'll just explain that a bit further. And then you get to the end, which is summing up what people have got from that, and then what's going to come next time. So maybe it's in the title of it or something, I don't know. But I've always said that I'd like more people to access it, because it would help. It would help. That's why I think, Sylvia, we've sort of talked about this. And if nothing else, I think confidence it gives people to stand or to be around people.
Have you seen this, Sylvia, in the sectors you work in? Is it a particular problem?
I mean, so I think like, I think we should assume everyone is neurodiverse. I think we just should assume that from point, like, because we are all so different. We all understand things differently. We all learn differently. We all come from different backgrounds. Like, we had different upbringing. We were, especially like living in UK, we are so multicultural as well. So we should just go into a meeting assuming that everyone is neurodiverse and everyone needs to have information presented in a different way, whether it's printed, whether it's a picture format, whether it's slides, or, whether there's so many different ways, and we are just not accommodating like that. And even meetings, like, people like me being neurodiverse, yes, I do try to take my notes and make sure that I know what actions, but, no one, like, especially like if someone organizes a meeting, they don't send you the agenda to prepare you for what that meeting is all going to be about. There is no one taking minutes. We've got technology now, so it shouldn't be a problem to be sending minutes after the meeting. There shouldn't be a problem where someone who organized the meeting sends action plans to make sure that everyone understands what needs to be happening and things like that, but we just don't do it. So it's very, very interesting, even though that we know that neurodiversity is a thing. It's talked about so loudly about at the moment, but it's not being utilized or adapted to in work situations or even at schools, to be honest.
I think one of the you said, sorry, just quickly, you just said something about professionals earlier on, and that's one of the major things I see is this expectation of what that word means. I say to people, what do you think it is to be professional? And they'll sort of say, they sort of stand and look, and I say, it depends. I'm very professional. I swear sometimes in my training. Doesn't make me not professional. It actually makes me very professional. I suss out. But I think what ends up happening is people have an idea about what managers should do and what managers should be like, when actually probably the likelihood is Graham, Sylvia and me, and other people that are neurodiverse, we make people feel at ease, because actually we do the things that we feel would be right, instead of, like you said, you have meetings and it's all very staid and it's very official and people don't feel comfortable. I bet if you went round to everybody saying, do you feel comfortable, they'd be like, not really, no. And you think, well, why are we doing this then like this? Sorry, Graham, I interrupted you.
No, it's all right. I was going to say, it's one of my favorite areas is and I was explaining this to someone the other day, is I am fascinated by the fact that, picking up on what Sylvia said, I'm fascinated by the fact that we put information out there assuming that the way that we understand that information and the way that we've given that information out is going to be understood by other people the same way as us. I completely understand why that is, because we are selfish. We are egotistical beings, right? And there's going to be people watching or listening to this now that go, no, I'm not. I'm massively humble.
By definition, psychologically egotistical.
I always think about other people. No, you don't. Most people, when they put information out, you assume that other people are going to think like you, right? That's why you've put it in that way. You've put it in a way that you think that people will find that the easiest to understand, or you've put it in a way that you feel it will hit home in a particular way, etc. And then quite often we're surprised when somebody hits back with something like that's different from us and goes, actually, why are you saying that? And we're like, oh, I didn't mean that, or whatever. And then we get kind of defensive about it because we're so convinced in our own heads that this is how people are going to take it, even though a tiny bit of us knows that it could be accepted differently. We just convince ourselves that that's the right way to do it. And in the last company that I worked in, I started doing work in the area of really looking at, or using technology to really look at how different people receive and think about different information. And I'm fascinated by that area of technology, and I think we need to use technology to do that more. So we were working in the field of notes for example, note taking. And the stuff that was starting to get into or starting to look into was stuff like if someone's sitting in a lecture, right, listening to somebody teach at them, we had a system that did allow people to do bookmarking. So you could have a recording of that lecture, but people could actually bookmark at points which they think is important, and then they can
helpful, yeah,
very helpful for dissemination, but also to be able to learn, like, write notes on the notes, if you know what I mean. Yeah, to create those kind of granulations. But what I was interested in was the next phase of that, which is, okay, so if you have a whole group of people all listening to the same bit of information, what's the difference in the understanding between that group? Where are they bookmarking the same? Where are they bookmarking differently? Where is someone understanding that bit of information as that bit of information as that? And what's really helpful about that, if you start to understand that, is that can then inform the teaching as well.
Totally.
It might be that somebody stood at the front going, and they might have said it for 20 years, I'm going to teach, and nobody's understood it ever. For the 20 odd years, nobody.
That's why I didn't like my degree.
Nobody's understood it, right? And if we can start going, do you know what? Actually, and then there was some other technology that Amazon developed as well, which can actually look at people's faces as they're receiving information and see whether they're actually interested or not in that information at that point in time. And we need to start using this clever stuff, right? Because if you can start to go, well, do you know what? You've completely lost people at that point. Imagine that in a meeting, right? That point in the meeting where you have an hour-long meeting, and there's a point where you know technology goes, everybody's gone to sleep now, and nobody's actually taking this in, right? Or from whatever they're doing, or from some kind of activity, it tells the person, stop. You're missing.
Doesn't that come down to time? It's almost like we don't want to. When we had Dean on the other day, there's so much is tick boxing stuff. So I'm now seeing finally that the military is starting to change. So I get people come on my course. I've been teaching the military for years, and I think, okay. And actually, when they've done my course, they go, oh my goodness, it's really different, isn't it? Because we're getting away from this attitude of someone I spoke to the other day, that we're in the fire service, and they said when they trained, it was if you just shouted louder at somebody, that would make them do it, because that was the way that it was sort of seen. And thankfully, that because of that experience, that person now has said to me that that's why they're investing a lot in the training for the fire service, that they work for. But so often, people, everything's got to be done quickly. So even when you look at in schools, there isn't the time. My son will say he doesn't understand something, and he'll say, but there was no point in telling anybody because there was no time. There was no time to follow up with that. I was told by the college, because he needs to get his GCSE maths, and despite the fact we're waiting for an assessment, they just said, tell him to try a bit harder, which I thought was quite interesting advice. But that everything is just, we don't want to, there often isn't that time. So I will pick up on it with people because I will find that time. But in meetings, I'm pretty sure that's quite often why things could happen, but they don't, because that would mean something might take a bit longer. You and I know, actually, in the long run, this is going to cut down the amount of meetings.
Exactly, and I'd love to get Sylvia's viewpoint on this, but isn't it back down to, yes, let's treat everybody as different, and before we start that meeting, let's ask the questions, but also let's develop a culture of honest feedback and actually asking questions throughout that meeting as well to check in and make sure that people have actually understood. It takes, we have to get over, we have to create a culture where people can say, didn't understand a word of that.
Yeah.
Sorry, amongst their peers, without feeling like they're going to look stupid. And I think the only way that can happen is that, you know, it needs to be offered up in the right way. If you say to a child, do you understand, even at school, you know, if someone said to me, a teacher said to me, do you understand that? I'd probably say yes, because I didn't want to be seen to not understand it. And if they try to break it down and say, right, so with this bit here, what's the answer for that bit? Testing my knowledge, yeah. And I'd go, don't know. Okay, well, let's go through it again together. Then if you do that sort of stuff, you know that people have learned it, and you know that perhaps you've missed the mark and you have to go back to the beginning again, and all of that's great, right? But if you just ask the question, do you get all that? Did you all get that? Yeah, good, right, okay. Well, that's my job done.
It's not assessing. That's not
assessing, yeah, and that's why people. That's why people need this.
I bet you, Sylvia, since you've had your diagnosis, and I think, like you said, it's not. People quite often think it's about having a label. For me, it gave me, I think it was validation that it was okay to ask. And actually, not only is it okay to ask, I was probably helping a whole load of other people in the room, because I'm pretty sure that once upon a time, I used to think I was a bit of a freak, a bit of a pain, a bit whatever. And actually now I know that I'm probably quite welcomed in a lot of situations, because I'll probably ask the things that nobody else wants to. But what it actually does is give other people permission. And I'm pretty sure, Sylvia, from what I've seen and what I've heard from what you do, that not only will you think it, not only will you wonder it, but you'll go out there and ask it, and you'll embrace other people to help them on their journey for whatever that is as well.
Yeah.
And it's something I think quite magical.
Yeah, recently, a couple of months ago, I attended a meeting, and see, that's the thing, is like and I think that's what would help a lot if in any situation we would just assume that everyone in the room is neurodiverse. It would make life so much easier, because I think, and it goes back to egos and, you know, people's feeling of importance, because my job title is X, Y, and Z, and I've been doing this job for numbers of years, and you are new to the sector, etc., right? So I recently, like a few months ago, attended a meeting, and I was asking questions because I wanted to understand what's happening and things like that. And people got upset with me because the questions that I was asking were like, they just, I don't know, so it's not even that, they just thought that I wanted to cause an argument, or I wanted to create a conflict and whatnot. So that was people's disrupt, yeah. So that was people's assumption, and I just wanted, for my sake, I just wanted to understand what's being said, how the process is going to work, etc., etc. So then I was told that I've upset a lot of people in that meeting, which I knew at the time, because I can tell, like, when people are upset with me, right? But what I did after, I've sent a newsletter, and I started actually newsletter in my council about neurodiversity at work. And every month I send a page long information about different topic on neurodiversity at work. And someone, the person that was actually upset with me probably the most, responded to that email and said, you know what, thank you so much. It made me sit down, stop and think about how people receive information in a different way and how we need to communicate, etc., etc. And they completely changed the attitude towards me. And I'm like, you know what, this is so simple. But if only we went into the meeting knowing or thinking or understanding that, you know what, everyone in this room is different. We've got some people who are new in this sector. We've got people who are more experienced. We've got people who know each other more, etc., etc. And it would go so differently. Like, no one would get upset with me. No one would. And then I'm thinking, like, why would people think I'm there to upset in the first place? That's interesting as well. Like, how we project or perceive people's attitudes or people's communication styles and things like that, we automatically, well, not we, but like some people automatically assume because this person talks louder or faster, or they seem angry, or they seem with the attitude, etc., etc. I can't even tell you guys how many times I've received complaints at work about people saying that I'm rude because I'm more direct than other people. And it's not because I want to be rude or I am rude. It's just I'm very direct. English isn't my first language, so I communicate in the easiest way I can. I'm neurodiverse, so I am very, very direct as well. But people find it as rude. So it's
but why does it make them right? But more often, you know, I've said this before, and other people have heard me say, and I have said it before to people, but only after I was diagnosed. You're too sensitive. You're too talkative. You're too this. So I said, maybe I think you're too insensitive, but I wasn't rude enough to say it. Maybe I didn't think you talked enough, but maybe I was too polite to say it. Maybe this, maybe that. And actually, that's what it is, that people seem to come at it from a point of, I was right because you were doing that too much. And you think, well, I wasn't actually standing there telling you how fast to speak or slow. Actually, you were winding me up because you were speaking really, really slowly, and it was really winding me up, actually. But I just kept it in.
Well, and also there's another point to all of this, which is actually sometimes businesses need to acknowledge that they need people who are more direct like that and can shoot past, right, to save them time and money and make them more efficient, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, I can say for myself that I've gone into a business and completely changed the direction of that business because I've actually gone, do you know what? You're all looking at it like we need to get from here to there, and we in order to do that we've got to do this, and actually you could just do that.
Yeah.
And they all go, no, we don't. We've got to do that. And you go, no, you don't. You can just do that. You're all wrong, right? And sometimes it needs someone to say because you can actually see that clearer picture. You're wrong.
I think
you're
people
wrong
are fearful,
in what you're saying. Because
they're fearful because they want to do it the way it's always been done. But
we just need people that can challenge, and as long as people who challenge are happy to be challenged themselves, I don't see any problem with it at all. You know, it's all about well, that goes back to that social media post this morning. You know, if you're going to put it out there and challenge, be accepting of being challenged yourself as well.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with anyone challenging me on anything, because that's fine. But I will challenge at the same time, and that gets to the hub of the problem quicker. Two quick things I'm going to say before we must end. One is great example I'm going to give you is when I was at school. My teacher used to say to me, my English teacher used to give me 30 spellings to learn every week, and then got really upset with me when I got 30 out of 30 every single week, and then like a month later I'd make the same spelling mistakes. And in the end I turned around and I said to her, do you know why? Because what I've done is, and I developed my own little program on the computer at home which taught me those spellings by doing flashcards, right? And I'd sit there and I'd flashcard learn it, and I'd learn the 30 spellings the night before, and I'd go in and I'd do the test and I'd recall the answers and whatever, but I hadn't learned any of the principles behind it. So therefore, a couple of months later, it all gone, and then I started making the mistake. Yeah. And I said, because actually what you're doing is not a spelling test of how those the rules of the spelling. It was a memory test.
Memory test.
And I had a way of memorizing it. So there's a very good point.
That's not educating.
It's not educating. And secondly, I'm just going to say that I went into one of the care meetings not that long ago, and I walked into the room and I sat and I listened to the dialogue, and I realized that everybody was talking about something that they couldn't actually define properly. And I said, actually, you're not all talking about it was assistive technology. I said, you're not all talking about the same thing. You're not all talking about assistive technology. Actually, what a lot of you are talking about is digital transformation. And everyone suddenly went, oh, yeah, maybe we are. And sometimes I just think we sit in bubbles and we just assume. and that's a dangerous thing. Anyway, we've reached an hour, so we need to say goodbye. But it's been fantastic to have you here with us today, Sylvia. I hope we've all learned. The dog's going to go mad in the background now. So
good old tree.